Hello musicians, welcome back. My name is buckydurddle and I'm doing another video tutorial on modules for the VCV Rack DAW. Today I'm doing a tutorial on JW modules, module called XY Pad, and that is this module right here. It's a very cool module, and JW modules do some fantastic work. Let's zoom in here a little so you can get a closer look. This is the one we're doing it on. JW modules do some really nice work on a lot of different modules. They have some really funky things that do some really cool graphical things and really great functional modules. So you should check out all of their modules, but certainly today where you should check out XY Pad. So that's what we're going to work on. So let's have a quick little look at XY Pad and the setup, first of all, that we have on our system here. Now let's have a quick little look. First of all, I am using Core Audio's audio interface, which is right here. I have that to my left and right going into Mixer, which you can see beside it, which is by Fundamentals. You need to have the Fundamentals pack installed. I use this one, and the Core pack installed for this guy. But I believe that when you install VCV Rack, they come automatic. Okay, and the next I'm using a couple of VCOs, which are also by Fundamentals. And these are VCO 1 and VCO 1. They're the same thing. I just duplicated these. And by the way, the way you do that, just to show you, you can right-click on any module and go duplicate. And it will duplicate the module and recreate it right here, an exact copy. And even if you have things like the settings changed, like let's say if I did this and did that, and I go duplicate, you go, the exact same settings are duplicated. So it's a really cool little thing to know how to do. Okay, so yeah, we have two VCOs here I'm using, and I'm going to switch over to Analyzer. I have Bog Audio's Analyzer here, which is very cool. You've probably seen me use this before in other tutorials. I like to use Analyzer and Scope from time to time so we can see the sounds that we're making, not only hear them. I'm also using another module by Bog Audio called Manual, which is a trigger or gate, and this will let us do some of the functions, show you some of the functions in XY Pad. So I'm going to use that in a few minutes. Now, and then last but not least, we have JW modules XY Pad right here. Now, XY Pad is an LFO. An LFO, and an LFO is a low-frequency oscillator. We have lots of different LFOs we can choose from that are provided for free, for the most part, in VCV Rack. You can see some of them here that I have, and we have lots. Frozen Wasteland has some excellent LFOs, which I've covered before, and Fundamentals has LFO 1 and LFO 2, and there's a whole load of LFOs we can use, and they can be very useful when we're trying to make our own unique sounds. So this LFO is different in that it's a graphical LFO. It starts with the graphical interface, and the graphical interface is what then dictates what's going to be output as our signal, because LFOs send out a control signal, control voltage. They control other things. Let me just show you what I mean. So I have a graphic here on the screen. This is a spiral, as you can see, and I have it hooked up to this LFO, this VCO and that VCO. I'm just going to turn up one of these. I don't need both of these up. So you can hear I have a tone. If I hit auto here, you can see it'll rotate around and around and around. So you can hear that LFO is controlling the VCO, this VCO1, and making that pitch go up and down as it rotates around. If I actually turn up the volume of the other LFO, you'll hear a second pitch. And we'll talk to you about why we're hearing that in a few minutes. Now, I'm just going to get rid of that for a second. And if I place wherever I click my mouse on the screen here, it will send out a control voltage on that position. And if I draw, you can see that it's drawing it. And I have auto selected, so it's going to replay my tracing. Okay, so I can do it again. I can draw something. I have auto turned off now, so you see, so I can draw pictures. I can draw all kinds of cool things. There you go. Hit auto, and let's play. It'll play what I just drew. The speed I did it as well. Anyway, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's turn off this volume, and let's get started on what this does, because I'm getting into all the fun things, and I need to tell you some basics before we actually get into these fun things. So, first of all, let's start at the top here and look at some of the controls we have. I have RND, which is random. Random, it gives us, if I click, it gives us, I don't know, it says random, but it really isn't random because it gives us some predefined patterns we can choose from. So as I'm clicking the left random button, the left one, it gives me various different styles. Like here it is, just an oscillation up and down, which the frequency gets higher and higher as it goes across. And if I push auto, we can hear that. Let me turn up a little bit of volume here. So you get the idea. And then if I hit to the left random again, there's a spiral. And again, it's like I don't know what that is. And then we have another oscillation. So, and then square wave and some ramps. So let's just take one of these. Like we're on a spiral here now. I just clicked the left mouse button. I clicked the left random button right here, and I've been getting these different graphical patterns. So if I've got a pattern like the spiral pattern here, if I click the right random button, it gives me a different variation on that pattern. So now I have a different spiral. If I click the right random button again, I get another variation, and another, and another, and another, and it'll keep going, give me all kinds of variations on that pattern. Okay? So if I click random to the left again, I get this, I don't know, squiggly square thing. I don't know what you call that. And then if I click my right random, it gives me a different variation on each of those. So I can click, 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 click. I get all these variations. And click again to the left. I got oscillations. I can click, 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 and I can get all kinds of different versions of that. And square wave and like a exponential. I guess you call that exponential line. And then we have a ramp or a line, and we can see different versions of that. Okay, so you get the idea. If I take my mouse then, and I draw, as you saw me do earlier, I can draw all over the place. This will make an LFO pattern that can be followed by the cursor as I click. If I click auto, it'll follow what it just did, and I've got my volume turned down now, so you're not hearing it, but you know what you're going to hear because you heard it earlier. So it'll do that. Now, if I say, okay, well, I want to try another one, well, I just click and it deletes it, and it gives me another one I can draw. So pretty cool. And then if I click auto, it'll stop. If I click auto again, it'll start the pattern again. So there you go. So we can go between, and if I click random, it'll just delete it and give me another pattern, you know, and I can click and draw again and get another pattern. So it's all very cool. Now I can also save these. If I draw a pattern that I really like, you know, this is a pattern I love, and it's really doing it for me, I can right click on my menu and right click on the interface for XY pad, and it gives me the pull down. Now all of these modules have a right click menu like this, but they all do different things. XY pad gives these points here, and you can go through these yourself. I'm not going to go through some of these are pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not going to go through these too much because I think if you had a look, you'd figure these out yourself. But I do want to say you can save and you can load. So if you save a preset, if you save a pattern, you can save it here, and you can load a pattern here too. So don't hesitate to save a good pattern once you get it. And we can also change forward and backward because, you know, when we played auto earlier, we were playing the pattern in one direction. Well, if we right click, we can change that direction to forward or backward. So it will do it that way. I'm going to let you play with the rest of the ones, though, because I don't want to get into too much of these little details, things that you can explore and find it for yourself. Okay, let's continue on across the top of our menu up here, on top of our interface. We have X scale, Y scale, X offset, and Y offset. Now, you say X and Y's, why have I got these? Okay, so before I get into those, let me just go down to the bottom here. Let me get a spiral first. Yeah, that's okay. Now, down at the bottom here, we have 4 outputs. We have x and y, and we have minus x minus y. Okay, what that means, it means the x is the x-axis and the y is the y-axis. Okay, and they will take out the voltages based on where you are on x and y. Okay, and you can output these. As you can see, I have x outputted to my VCO1 right here. I have y, the blue patch cable, output to this guy right here. So x and y, depending on where the cursor is at any given point, you're going to get a different variable, a different voltage for wherever the cursor is at that point. So let's have a look at that. I'm going to click auto. I'm going to turn up my volumes a little bit. Maybe what I should do, I should change a different pattern here. Okay, this is a better indication. So you can see here that this module here is the up and down of the oscillations, up and down. This module here is it's going up higher and higher and higher. Okay, because what's happening is this axis, the x-axis, which is horizontal, is moving from left all the way to the right. You can see it's moving to the right. You can follow this little white line, the vertical line. You see it's just gradually going up and up and up and up and up and up. It's not going down. Whereas the y-axis is going down and then up and down and up. So whichever module, whichever VCO you, or whatever module you connect to the output of x, it's going to be represented by the position of the cursor on the x-axis, and vice versa for the y-axis, for the y output. Okay, pretty cool. Now let's have a look at something here. I'm going to stop this, turn off auto. Now look on the screen. You can see a ghost here. You see this? See this ghost? It's like a ghost cursor. It's mirroring me. Everywhere I move, it's mirroring me. Okay? What this is the negatives of the axis. So this is the negative x and negative y. And that's these guys right here. So negative x and negative y. So you may want to do something like this. You may say, I want to have one output as the x-axis and one output is the minus x-axis. So you may say, I don't care what the y-axis is going to be. I'm only interested in the x-axis. So what we'll do then is that the x-axis, you can see, will be absolutely opposite each other. So you can see that as I move to the right, it moves to the right. As I move to the left, the other one moves to, well, the other opposite. As I move to the left, it moves to the right. As I move to the right, it moves to the left. So that's the negative of the x and negative of the y. So you may have a reason to use that. Very cool stuff. Okay, so now I'm going to go back. Now that we know what our outputs are, and we know about our x and y axis, let's load up an oscillation like this. And then let's look at our x and y controls up at the top here. If I turn up my volume a little, and then I push play or auto, so you can hear the x-axis is getting higher and higher and higher, going way up above the human hearing. And you can hear that. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. I'm on x and there we go. That's what I want to do, x and y, my x and y output. I had x and minus x. You can hear, let's turn down our x, which would be, let me follow these over the yellow, which would be input 2. So let's turn down this. You can hear our y is, it has a range. It goes from the top to the bottom, top to the bottom. Now, if I take this scale and I rotate my scale down, it's not, what I'm doing is I'm limiting the range of these oscillations. So what that x and y scale does is it multiplies the value of the x and the y by 0.01 to 1. So if it's all the way to the top, like this, it's going maximum range. So basically from the bottom, which would be multiplied by 1, and to the top it would be multiplied by 1. It is just as wide a range as it can go. And you can see here on our analyzer, you can see that the range is really wide. Now let's, if I rotate the scale for y down, so now I've got it multiplied by a very low number. If I bring it all the way to the bottom, it's multiplied by 0.01. So that makes that range very, very small. And you can hear in the pitches here now, I'll turn this up a little bit more so you can hear it. The frequency is hardly wobbling. Okay, so that's what that does. It narrows the range. So it narrows it from top to the bottom. Okay, so that's what it does. It multiplies the output by 1 at the top all the way to the right, or clockwise, and counterclockwise would be all the way to the counterclockwise extreme. It would be multiplied by 0.01. And the same for the Y scale. Now, let's reset that to 0, to normal, and let's look at the offset. Now, offset, what offset does is where it places it in the range. So what it does is it adds or subtracts plus or minus 5 volts. So if I bring it all the way to the top, it's the oscillations are at the upper range of frequencies. You can hear they're very high pitched. If I lower it down halfway, so the oscillations are in the middle of the range pitch. They're still oscillating to the same width, okay, the same amplitude, but they're in the middle range of the frequencies. If I lower it down further, it places it lower down in the frequency range. Okay, the oscillations are still the same width, but they are lower pitched. Okay, so that is what offset does. Now I'll turn my volume down a little bit, and let's see where we are. Let's do a little quick review here. Whoops. Let's do a little quick review. So we know up along the top here we got our randoms, which we talked about, and that gives us different types of shapes, different types of graphics that we can choose from. And then once we find a graphic that we want, we can right side random. It will give us variations on that graphic. Okay? Now, and then of course if I draw with my mouse, I can draw my own graphic. Okay? And auto down here is like a play. I can push auto and it will start. Push it again, it will stop. Okay. Now scale, we learned. Scale is it multiplies the values. So it multiplies them by up to 1 if it's clockwise to the maximum, or 0.01 if it's all the way to the counterclockwise. So that it multiplies the variable, so it can make the oscillations very wide, very, very wide. The amplitude can be very, very wide. Now, offset adds or subtracts, okay, 5 volts. So it can move our where the oscillations take place in the frequency ranges are either moved up or they're moved down. Okay, so that's what offset does for us. Now let's go to the bottom here. We've already covered some of the things in the bottom. We have, first I want to talk about gate. We have gate in and gate out. Now gate is, I'm going to use my little Bog Audio trigger. I'm going to move this up here so it's nice and tidy. Bog Audio trigger. If I take one of these trigger lines and I bring it into the gate in, and let's bring up a little random one, like an oscillation. Nice. There we go. That's a little nice little ramp. Okay, so if I hit auto, it doesn't work. You see, because I've got a gate connected to it. It doesn't work. But if I click my trigger and hold it, so I'm creating a gate, you can see it starts it. If I let go, it stops. And if I click again and hold, it will do it again. It will start rolling. Now, gate and trigger. A trigger is a pop. It's like it's one signal. It's an instant in time. Bang, it's a gate. Sorry, a trigger. That's a trigger. Think of a gun. You pull the trigger, bang. A gate is an open, and then it closes. So it opens for a period of time and closes. When I hold this trigger button open, it's a gate. It's holding it open, and it will stay playing while that gate is open. It'll continue to play, and it'll repeat itself over and over while the gate is open. But as soon as I let go and close the gate, it stops. And then if I push again, it restarts from the beginning. Okay, piece of cake. You can do this manually like I'm doing, and I like to do it manually here with this guy because it's nice to see. But you can also set up things in sequencers in order to do it so that it's not manual, it's an automatic function. But that's something you guys can play with yourselves. So that's what gate does for us. Now, we also have speed and multiply. Now, what is that? Speed and multiply. And these are the last things, actually. If I go, I'll leave it on this one, I guess, and I'll turn my volume up a little bit on my x-axis? Is that my y. So my y-axis. So if I push play now, you can hear it's a declining frequency. Now, the speed does just that. If I turn it up, the speed increases. And I can go so fast, that's as fast as I can go, maximum speed. Like that, okay? So I'm going to reset that back to the default. Multiply will actually multiply the speed. It will multiply a factor to the speed. So with multiply, I can, as I crank it up, it's increasing the speed, but this is how you can get super speeds. So you can get really high speeds. Now, if I just take my speed here and I crank it up, so it's like up to the max, and then I crank my multiply up, we start to get some crazy sounds. Aliasing and everything in there. So we start to get some really funky sounds. So multiply and speed can be used to control the speed you have. Now we also have, you can see here we have a a control voltage input for speed. So you can control this. You can control all kinds of it. You can control with the device itself. But depending on what the variable is here in the x or the y, it's actually controlling anyway. I'm getting ahead of myself. I shouldn't be talking about that here in this tutorial. The idea is the speed. You can use control voltage to control that speed. So depending on what you want that speed to do, you want it to increase in speed and decrease. You want it to maybe go to a certain speed and stay there and then eventually turn off. Who knows? Your choice, but speed can be controlled with a control voltage, like another LFO, for example. Okay, so that's basically it. That's XY Pad. Now, I'm just giving you the technical on how it works. You notice I'm not going over how you could use it in your music, but there's many ways it can be used. The purpose of this tutorial is to give you the technical background on how something like XY Pad works, and then you can then use it. You can use your imagination to find ways that you're going to be able to incorporate it into your music. So there you go. That is XY Pad by JW Modules. Be sure to check out more of JW Modules, and you can also check out my other tutorials on JW Modules, because I have a lot in here in utopian.io on JW modules, so you can check those out too. Okay, if you like this video, be sure to upvote, and if you don't like it, of course, feel free to download as much as you like. And if you have any questions, feel free to connect with me in the comments of this post, or you can get me on the utopian.io Discord. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.